Hello, my friend. Welcome back to the Mindset Check podcast. This is your host, Misha McKittrick. This is a podcast where I believe that as you take time for a mindset check, you have more power than you think you do so that you can feel joy. This is also a podcast where I believe that when you have the space to talk about what you're actually going through, new doors can open up for you. This is what we're getting into on the podcast today, and I'm really excited to introduce our guest. But first, I have to tell you how pumped I am to be able to offer you a discount on the Heartseek course. I know lots of you have your eyes on it, and you're really looking forward to learning heart coherence and how this applies to your life. This is something that we talk about a lot in this community, and it is by far my top recommend for life. Learning heart coherence among all the things that you learn is something can set straight your insides, which is really the absolutely most important part of living. Because if we can get all the insides right, the outside falls into place. And the heart can take care of so many things that it would take our mind so long to work through and figure out. And heart coherence also replaces the yucky feelings in life with a high vibration. And that allows you to access a completely different reality. And so because of that, I'm so excited to be offering you 25% off. This is a big deal. I only run specials a few times a year for the Heartseek course, and I wanted to make sure that you can get in on it. So be watching my Instagram stories. I will make sure that everything is all there that you need with the coupon code. And if you have any more questions or just anything at all, you can DM me there. And my Instagram is @myfriendmisha, or you can email me at hello@myfriendmisha.com. Okay, so now I'm really excited to be able to tell you about this episode and really what is propelling me offering this discount for the Heartseek course, because there's such a need for it. I was having a discussion with one of our listeners, and we're going to call her Rebecca. And in this conversation, I asked her if she would mind if we share it with the audience, because it's really important. It's a really important conversation, and I think that a lot of people are struggling inside of their homes, their marriages, their families, and it's really hard to have a space where we can talk about it, where we know someone can hold the space for us, that they would be able to give us what we might be able to use to help us get through it. And, we also don't always know who is actually safe to share things with. And so because of this, we hold things and lock them up in our hearts, and we don't actually ever get the help that we need. And so it's in that spirit that Rebecca is willing to share what we talked about. We start out the conversation with a desire for her to feel better in her life, for her to have a desire, with her personal desire to reset some of the anxiety that she feels and some of the hope that she has to return to what would feel like peace. And then we talk a lot about her family situation and things that are going on in her marriage. And she shares with us on a really personal level the struggles and some of the things that she is looking at with her husband, really being numb to the things that matter most. If you feel like you're up against managing a home and lots of personalities and things that people are going through, and especially if you have a spouse that is depressed or anxious, this conversation can benefit you. Okay, so let's dive in and hear from Rebecca as she's starting to share with me really just what is on her heart.
For me, I felt for a really long time. Like I was an anxious kid. I've always like dealt with just fear and anxiousness, and like looking back, I don't know why I was such a scared kid. Like my siblings weren't like that. I didn't enjoy things that other kids did. They all seemed scary to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I have lived in that state of like fight or flight. And it has kind of changed me and made certain things. I think like I've had health issues. And anyways, like 16 years ago, I was sick and tried all these things, Lyme's disease, blah, 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 blah. Right. I've tried everything and you name it. And then ultimately I have figured out like it's just nervous system dysregulation. Right. So now I'm like, okay, forget all this stuff. Like no more pills, no more like I guess the hard part is there's so many things out there that it gets overwhelming. And ultimately I've tried so many things for the physical, not realizing it was all emotional and spiritual, and
that was
like
manifesting through.
Yes, it had nothing to do really with all the physical symptoms. Those were just manifestations of all of the trauma and like things that I'm holding on inside, right? So now I'm done spending energy on those things, but I do find myself like I was doing this nervous system program. That's why I was like, oh, I can't sign up for another thing because like we are saving money and we're trying to get out of debt, right? And my husband gave me this for Christmas because I've been asking for it. It's like this New You program. It's a nervous system regulation healing program. And so I've been diving into that. And so I'm doing a lot of things that like this woman suggests, and I'm still new at it, right? So it takes time. Like I've been dysregulated for a really long time. So I need to be patient, but I do feel like there's this thing that's missing. There's something that like, I don't know. A lot of the stuff, like one of them is like emotional, like journaling. Like when you have something come up, you just write everything out that you're feeling, everything you're thinking. And I feel like I'm having a hard time, like just getting out of that. Like it's one thing to like recognize how you feel and tell it, like give it love and like feel where it's at and like let yourself feel it without thinking all the thoughts, and just like instead of diving into like what it means and just feeling it. And I feel like I'm doing that and I understand, but like my body is still doing it all the time. And so I don't know if I'm making sense.
Are they is in this program, are they helping you figure out how to elevate that, how to change the feeling, or are they just asking you to feel it?
Well, there's two different options, but the first one and the one to try the most often is to feel it. So there's different suggestions she gives, like the journaling, the emotional detox journaling, where you like write out everything, things you wouldn't even want to tell someone, right? Like if you're feeling it and you're thinking it, let it out and then burn it or whatever. But then there is like the be do have, like how, okay, that's not going away. How do I want to feel? How do I want to be? And what does that look like? And you imagine feeling that. But for me, it's very hard. Like when you don't feel that way, it's hard to tap into what that feeling is. Like even Joe Dispenza, it's like, you have to be able to feel it, to like really it be a part of you. You have to connect with it. Like you have to be able to tap into it some part. And I feel like just, I often don't have very like any time where I'm not feeling like my heart is like panicked, or I feel like my gut is just like, I feel like I'm standing up in church speaking or something all the time. I'm not, like I have this like panic inside my chest all the time. There's no reason to be like that. And so I feel like, I don't know. I'm not sure if there's more I need to be tapping into with like teaching myself how to feel it instead of being like, oh, I'm feeling these things. Yeah, I've felt this way for a long time and I'm sick of paying attention to it. I'm sick of saying like, oh, you're okay to be here. Like, I'm not judging you. You're safe, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I've been doing this. And it's like, we're not moving on. And I want to be done with it. Like, I want to feel peace. I want to feel, I don't know. And then I'm realizing I have triggers, and like my husband is not in a good place right now. And the way he behaves and treats me is very triggering to how I feel and not feeling loved. Which makes all of these things that I feel inside amplified. And I'm realizing that a lot of this over like the last 7 years has come from that. Like she's drastically changed, like not the person I married.
Mm-hmm.
And I think over time it has just like, I'm realizing these feelings inside of me amp up when he does certain things. And I didn't realize all this time that so much of what's going on inside of me is certain things that have been happening for so long. But I want to find my own power. Like, I don't want what he does to affect me.
Yeah.
I want to be able to have, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if I'm making any sense.
No, you are speaking. You're literally speaking the voice, I think, of so many people. I think so many people resonate with exactly what you're talking about. Everybody's circumstances can be a little bit different. You know, when my husband went through such a low spot for him, which to me felt like a big part, and we are still like working through patterns. Last night we sat down and had a conversation about, you know, we could feel things were kind of off and we were kind of, you know, in a state, but that this is what that looked like. It looked like me sitting down and saying, wow, I'm really sorry, because I am realizing that like I'm falling into my coping pattern from when you're not doing well. This is how I act. So my coping pattern was always to retreat into myself and to pay attention to like what I could create and, you know, read books and this stuff, which is not bad. Okay. But the bad thing is that I would do that to keep him at a perimeter. Right. And there's approaching your life with wisdom. Sometimes that can just be necessary, and to work on yourself until you have restored yourself enough. But the problem with that is that then he feels distant. He doesn't feel love because I'm trying to block him off because he's affecting me so much. It's difficult. It's really, really hurting me. And so instead of a conversation that might have blown up and, you know, had a lot of like heated words or something like that, or someone storming out and going to sleep somewhere else or whatever, that literally looked like us sitting on the couch and talking and acknowledging both of our sides and like what we needed to like really keep working on and what we needed to let go of. And there's sort of this presence or awareness of us kind of having this out of body experience to really be able to look at like what we are experiencing and to be able to go, whoa, like if I can detach from all the feelings and the attack or the rejection or the feeling, you know, all of that stuff, and I can really look at myself objectively, right? Like as though I'm having like an out of body. And then I can be able to say and direct and steer myself a little bit better versus directing myself through the hurt, through the pain, through the not feeling wanted, or through the whatever that looks like. Because when we navigate through those negative feelings, we are only going to get an outcome that is equal to the vibration of what we're navigating through. So if we can take a step back and like look at that and allow that to then say, okay, here's what I can own. And all I know is that I can't own your side. Like I can just keep owning my side. That's all. And it's hard because a lot of times we feel like, well, you're the one who got crazy, or you're the one who has all this negative energy, or you're the one that, you know what I mean? And so it's really hard to then see, like, for example, like, oh my word, I totally fed in to your energy and I treated you wrong because of it. And I'm sorry. There's nothing that says, but your energy really sucks. And so boom, because that automatically changes the vibration, right? But I think that you are so on point and on track with being able to say, for example, things like when you're writing everything out and knowing that you have been feeling it and feeling it and feeling it, and you're kind of done feeling it. So that's kind of an element I talk a lot with my clients about, where I think therapy or some things can be destructive. And I want to be really careful with that, because I love any person who's in a position to help another person, no matter what type of coaching or therapy or whatever. But a lot of the times there are many therapists who will ask you to go down the dark hole of whatever it is that's going on. but they don't help you walk out the other side and close the door for you to go on with your own life, right? And then to be able to back into a space of processing, and then to be able to feel like it's going to be okay. They just leave
they make
you
it act
open.
like if you need to feel it to heal it, right?
Yeah, and which is
I just haven't found that. I don't know. I think
I will say,
I get their point. There is purpose in that, but
hanging out in it forever creates a pattern inside of you.
Yeah.
So that you can, if you're feeling that way, and that's what you're paying attention to feeling all the time, then what are you going to be feeling? And what are you going to be feeling? And what are you going to be feeling? You're essentially creating that life over and over and over and over.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm trying really hard to like recreate it so that I just not exactly sure how to do it. And I don't know.
Okay.
I feel like I'm at a loss of words at like where to start or like what I'm like trying to figure out. I don't know if you're grasping it, but
totally. So my advice would be heart coherence, 100%. This is why. Because your heart has the ability to, well, first, let me give you an example. When I was reading a book, this book that we're having a little bit of a book club, or, just asking like everybody to kind of read the book so that they can kind of be in the conversation of what we're going to be talking about. And this book is called Human Tuning. And in this book, Human Tuning, he gives an example of how if it's really, really quiet, like if I'm quiet right now, I can hear a distant tractor working. I can hear, some rain. If you're really quiet and you could block all of those sounds out, what you're actually going to hear is the sound of your nervous system inside of your head. And you can even just like pause, like even in your car is a great environment to be able to do that, and just to be able to try and hear what you actually hear when there is nothing else to hear. You'll hear your body functions, right? And your nervous system has a sound, and that sound exists in like the very top of your head. And a lot of times it will sound really high pitched, especially if you feel uptight or if you feel anxious or if you feel all these different things. So one night I'm laying in bed and I'm starting to read this book and I'm reading about this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I'm starting to like really, really understand, because his whole approach is that he tunes the nervous system with these tuning forks, right?
Okay.
But the bottom line is I could use this meditation bowl and I could tune, right? I could use these little meditation speakers and I could tune, right? Similar sound to a meditation bell. Or I could, like, as I was laying there, I felt like I heard this high pitched sound. And when I was reading it, I had two circumstances that were happening before I was reading that kind of had me a little bit like amped up a little bit. And I realized as I was reading that I hadn't like allowed those to dissipate. I hadn't like thought them through. I was carrying them. And I heard my nervous system and it was really high pitched. And so immediately I took a pause and I took some breaths. And I went into heart coherence before I even kept reading. And I listened to my nervous system again, and it had lowered in pitch, and it was more, I felt different inside, and I had this lower pitched, more harmonious sound versus being like this high pitched sound. So do that when we're not talking, and try to pay attention to like that sound or whatever. But my point is I didn't take care of the things that I had been feeling. I went into my heart, and my heart helped regulate that.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a lot of things that our heart can take care of that we don't have to spend mind energy doing.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean that everything in our life can be handled that way? No.
Right.
But our heart can help us through it. So for example, when you're going into your body and you're feeling where it's at and you're doing all that somatic healing, you can take a breath and get into this state called heart coherence. And you can try to move that energy into the space where you're feeling that. Because like I'm sure in your somatic healing, they're saying, where do you feel it in your body? Right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's so much that, but yeah, it's walking through, like, where do you feel it?
Yeah.
What does it feel like?
Yeah.
Kind of like leaning into it instead of running away from what you're feeling, which, I didn't always do. I get it. Like, I tried to distract myself and just keep going and doing all the mom things and like not acknowledging it. Right. But I've stopped doing that and now I'm acknowledging it, but it feels like you said, like what you focus on grows, even though I'm not mentally focusing on it. I don't know. It's weird. And maybe I just need more time, but like something about it just doesn't seem to resonate. And I have learned now from all this stuff and trying so many things and spending so much money on this doctor and this therapy and that like, I don't know, not everything works for everyone. And I'm trying to like learn when to just be like, maybe I need to shift it. And just because it says it's this way, like I'm trying to learn to listen to myself instead of sticking with things so firmly and not seeing that like, no, actually that's not what you need to be doing, or no, that's actually not what works for you. Instead of leaning on other people and leaning on all the things I learn and all the professionals, like trying to listen more to myself, because that's something that I have struggled with, like finding my own wisdom, finding my own, like, is this what's right for me? And always having these big decisions of like, well, what do I try next? Like, I'm not better. What do I try next? And just,
so
I think I need more time, but I do think there's a part of me that wants to learn how to access that good feeling and teach myself again. And when I'm in those difficult moments, to feel it, to be able to like, I don't know, maybe you call it heart coherence. I don't know exactly what it is, but to be able to bring yourself back into like a gratitude in your heart that allows, it's like everything is going to be okay. It's some like really, and ultimately like worrying about it, or even the feelings that you have, like that's the problem. I can sit back and I can look at the whole picture and be like, oh, I get it. Like, oh, my husband's being rude. Like he's actually hates himself. Yeah. He doesn't really hate me, even though I feel like he does. But like, if I sit back, yeah, he's on his phone all the time. He's numbing himself. Like he doesn't not want to be with us and not have time for any of us, but he literally has no capacity. Right. But I take it personally. But like, I can mentally step back and like see, but my body does not.
Yeah, like, I know.
If I feel it, even though I can rationalize and like totally get on like the page of like, okay, I get what's happening. Like it's my soul. It just, so I get it. It's also recognizing triggers. And for a long time, I took it a certain way. I didn't realize that, because that's normal. Like if your husband's amazing to you and then over how many years they become a jerk and are ice cold and show you no love and are not kind and are rude to your kids, you're like, where the heck did this person go that I married? Like that starts to wear on your soul.
100%.
And I think that I just took it so like personally that really, I don't think ultimately it had anything to do with me. I mean, even though, yes, like he resented me for all these things that he never even said, like he wanted to go hunting. Well, but we have little kids. It's like you put your passions on hold. Like that's life. Yeah. And even now when we talk about it, like there's so much resentment that seems so silly to me. And I can let go and not resent him for 8 years of him being so horrible to us, to the kids. And I can be like, cool, let's forget that all and let's go forward. Like, I love you. Like but yet he's holding on to these petty little things that at the time he didn't even express to me were an issue, but just held so much resentment. I don't know. It's just, I'm realizing now that he's gotten to a point where he is so bad and he's done things that he's so embarrassed about. He hates himself. And he finally broke down like 2 weeks ago saying like, I hate myself. Yeah. It's not you. It's me. Like, I don't want to be home. I think you guys would be better without me here.
And that's very scary. Is he sleeping at night?
He sleeps. I mean, he sleeps, but he gets up early and he works out for like 3 hours at the gym, and he's, go, go, go. He runs 5 businesses, and there's never a dull moment, and he numbs himself all day long. He's either working or he's on his stupid phone. And I am not one of those women that like sits back and just is like, oh, sitting in like, we have a counselor or whatever. Oh, he sees her more than I do. I don't. Anyways, it's like they say, oh, well, you need to like express what you need, right? Like you need to tell him, like, I have no problem kindly saying, like, I would love it if you'd be able to do this. Could you not have your phone at dinner? Could you save the 2 hours you have with your kids and myself every evening and put the phone away? Right? Like, I can give very simple requests. I can express how bad it makes me feel, how bad it makes the kids feel. He cannot do it.
Yeah.
And when he says he's going to do it, he may do it for a day. I mean, I don't know how many times he's gifted me for Christmas or my birthday a month of him putting his phone away after. He knows it's the deepest longing of my heart for him to be present, and he cannot do it.
Right.
And over time, how do you not take that personally? Like, how do you not feel like
he's not capable right now of meeting your needs with his mental state? He's not capable.
Right.
And it's really important for you to understand that so that you can get beyond that. Because,
well, I'm realizing that now. I did not know how bad he was. And he wasn't always this low. He was angry and he was resentful, and he let that anger carry him for years. And now he's made such, like, he doesn't even, like, who does that? Who talks to their wife? Who pulls their kid's hair when they're getting out of the water? Like, he's unrecognizable to himself.
Yeah.
And it's like, now he hates himself. Now he's low and he feels numb. He's like, yeah, I don't love you the same. I'm like, wow. Okay.
It's not because he doesn't love you. It's because he's incapable of love. There's a feeling right now. So if you have a scale of emotions, and you have these really high emotions, which are love, gratitude, happiness, joy, and you have these low feelings, which are like anxiety, stress, overwhelm, hate, fear, any of those low feelings. The thing is you can't feel the high feelings at the same time as feeling low feelings.
Yeah.
But it is also a reversal. You can't feel hate and also feel love.
Yeah.
So he's incapable right now. And instead of asking him to go from 0 to hero, we have to ask him to go from 0 to a little bit better, to a little bit better, to a little bit better. And like, I hate to like say like exactly what I'm going to say. But I'm going to walk you through it, and I'm going to teach you exactly what I mean by it. Okay. And I'm going to tell you that it's not forever. All right. So first of all, full on recognize that this is not about you.
Right.
Second, if you continue to hate the situation, you're focusing on it and you're recreating it.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So all of the feelings that you have about, and it's great that you know that this isn't him. Let's just say that. It's great that you know this is not who he really is. You know this is not who you married, that you know that this isn't the person that in his best place and in his true heart, he never wanted to develop into this.
Right? But he says, well, this is who I am. He's like, I guess I've just become, it's like, but that's not who you really are.
Yeah, that's not taking a responsibility. He's incapable right now of taking responsibility.
Right.
He cannot do that right now.
Which in some ways, like he does, but the responsibility often doesn't last. Like he will sit in and he will realize, oh my gosh, like, I'm so sorry. Like, I can't believe you've stayed with me. Like after being treated like this, I can't believe you.
Yeah.
But then it's like old habits, old patterns. Like he's just, it doesn't last very long. Right.
Which is
why I do understand what you're saying. Like, it's not me, but I didn't understand that for a very long time. Right. It felt it's me, because it was being taken out on me in a sense.
Yeah.
But I do understand now, like, it isn't me. And ultimately I can request. And if he doesn't do it and he doesn't show up, it sucks. That's what I'm trying to deal with. Okay. How do I not get triggered?
So for you, it's like recognizing that there's a walking path that you've got to go down with him. And you got to get him to a point where he can make the choice, where he can respond to your needs, where he can do these things. And then you can let him decide and take responsibility. And at that point, when he really can make a choice, things will change. So to get from that, the low point that you're at right now, to the point for him to be able to be taking responsibility, best case scenario would be to like have, like, this is impossible, but I'm just going to tell you, if he could sit in heart coherence, everything would change for him. This is why, because all of a sudden he's checking into these higher feelings. He's teaching his body new patterns, and he's teaching his body what's possible. But it takes him out of the low feelings. You cannot be in heart coherence and feel low feelings. You can only be in heart coherence with your heart pounding and expanding and energy growing and going out of you and completely elevating your vibration in life to then be able to sort of rehab or fix or assist you to a different space that you can exist in. All right. But that's not possible, because you and I know that even if you knew exactly what heart coherence was, he will not sit with you right now in heart coherence. He would not.
Honestly, he might.
Okay.
He has these random times where like he read the Joe Dispenza book.
Mm-hmm.
And he really liked it, and he has the intentions to start doing meditations, but it's not natural to him, and he's not doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
He's like manifesting in his own simple way, the way that's easy, like money and financial stuff, but not the ways that he really needs to be. And he doesn't know how to tap into like it just takes practice. It takes a lot of time. Mm-hmm. And for me, like, it does feel harder than it has to be. Okay. But like, if I could learn something and it was simple enough, he might be willing to do it with me once or twice. And if he felt something, maybe he would do it on his own if it was simple enough, like for him to not feel like he has to learn some huge brand new thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I do feel like sometimes he's open and sometimes he's willing to do stuff. I thought of him as I'm learning about it. I think of me and I'm like, well, you say it can change everyone, or it can just, my coherence can help my kids, and I feel like I'm trying to be extra strong for my kids because they don't have the best person showing up on this side, and so I don't know.
No, I'm hearing you 100,000%, because every single person that has a spouse who's depressed or anxious can resonate exactly with this conversation. So let's go back to pretending that he wouldn't do heart coherence with you. And let me tell you a couple of actions that you can do on your part to completely change how he shows up and who he is. Okay.
Okay.
Now, this is like a funny and a really, really great trick. I took a marriage course by a woman named Trina Glines called Taming Jane. It's fantastic. She really went over a book in Alison Armstrong's work. So a couple of books from Alison Armstrong. Okay. And the Keys to the Kingdom and I think Queen's Code were what the books are called. Essentially, this is the bottom line of what I learned. And I'm going to tell you why it works, and I'm going to also tell you why it doesn't work. Okay. So when you have so much capability to affect his state, and it's simply by complimenting him. Mm-hmm. Okay. Literally. It sounds ridiculous, but once you are completely aware of the fact that even if you think a good thought about him in your head, you most likely are not sharing it with him. Mm-hmm. Okay. So if you can compliment him once a day, authentically, for something, you will help him get to a different point. Okay. To where he then can like cope with life. He can come up to, like, instead of being in those low, yucky feelings, he can come up to willingness or neutral or somewhere in the middle. Right. And he can even come into like really high feelings with you propelling and perpetuating this state for him. Now I'm going to tell you,
he's not. So I will, like, he's like, you don't need to worry about me. Like, I'm not thinking about suicide. He's like, I'm too cocky. I'm too prideful. Like, I have too much stuff to live for. But he feels numb. He's at the state where he hates himself and he feels numb with the things that matter the most. Mm-hmm. He feels numb with our kids. Mm-hmm. He should want to play with them. He should want to have time with us. He doesn't. He just feels numb about like things that you would not want to be numb for. But then he can laugh at Instagram stuff, and he gets up and works out 3 hours and is still going to work and like smiles and does his calling and like he's still happy sometimes. Yeah. So that's a part. It's like he's not so low where it's like you totally understand, like you know, like you're so low, I can just
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah.
It's like it only shows in these like very vulnerable moments where he says, and I'm like, oh wow, I didn't realize you were that low, because it's a little confusing, his behavior.
Right.
And I can work on that. I think I would have to like compliment him in certain ways, because when I give him compliments, he'll be like, oh, I know. I'm like, right, like if he thinks he's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, he's great, but I was like, oh wow, we have
But
tried.
one of the things that he might need to know and to have reaffirmed is that the people around him think he's amazing.
Yeah. And you know what's hard is I try to show him love and like treat him the same, even when he's not showing up how I want, because I know that's important. But there are times where he does not, he's very icy. Like he doesn't reciprocate. He doesn't want, and he's acknowledged that. He's like, please don't stop showing me affection and love. Like, I don't know why I can't accept it from you, but like, don't stop doing it. He's like, I hope that I can figure it out before you are like, I'm done trying, but I don't know. So I am trying to like do those things,
right,
and say nice things, but I probably should, try and focus even more, like just keep going
right.
with.
Right. So here's the thing that I found challenging, because when I did this, it created the best that we had sort of experienced that far in our marriage. Like he was happy, he was performing, he was like, it was incredible. Right. But then I had these moments where I realized that if I didn't compliment him, or if I didn't treat him a certain way, which there's more to it in the Queen's Code book and different things, but the basic is just like really recognizing him. That he would dip and that he would be different. And then I realized that that wasn't my responsibility.
Yeah.
But you see, it was then that I could have my husband be at a point where I could share that with him, and I could ask him to take over the responsibility of him feeling good, of him being responsible to have a life that he doesn't have to numb from and run from and not be present in and so forth, because he has the capability to feel good. A lot of times, like, we're so unfamiliar with those hormones, with dopamine and oxytocin and all of those different feelings, that we really want that chemical concoction, but it actually is our body responding and saying, whoa, hold on. Like, we do not belong here. We haven't been here since we were a kid. We're done. We don't hang out in these zones. So get out of here. Yeah. And that's something that's a pattern in us. It is not us. It is not who we are. So it's really important to like continue to internalize this, and to kind of go back to remember, your vows and the different things that you promised. You'd promised that you would help him through sickness. And this is definitely mental sickness, right? Now, I always have to be like super careful, because I also would honor you completely with whatever choice you need to make, whatever choice puts you in safety and in the very best of life. But I'm also going to be here to encourage you to fight for what you have and to make it the best that you can. Because when you walk away from this, if you were to, you would attract the same thing that you have, because you're in a vibration right now.
Right.
And a lot of times we don't realize or understand that it's not his vibration. It's our vibration.
Yeah.
And it's,
I don't like it.
I know, girl.
I'm like, I can't, it just feels like it's, I don't, I'm just like, we've got to change the vibration, or I don't know how much longer I can keep holding the fort down.
Right. So here's, I love this analogy, and I give this analogy in my podcast and in some of my classes, but it's like one of my very, very favorites, because in nature, we always find really cool lessons. And when an eagle is flying, if a raven lands on the eagle's back and starts to peck at the eagle does not turn around and interact with the raven. The eagle flies higher and higher and higher and higher, because it knows that at the altitude that it's going, that the raven cannot breathe.
Mm.
And the raven will fall off of its back to an altitude it can handle. And so, bringing that to home to you and to your situation, I would recommend that you recognize that you're this eagle, and you might not know what's on your back. You might not know if it's a raven or an eagle. But when you fly the highest you can fly, either that weight that is pecking you and hurting you and really pestering you and causing you to try to not fly is either going to roll off and be soaring right next to you because it's proven itself that it is an eagle, or it will naturally fall and be able to only be existing in its own environment where it can breathe. Right.
Okay.
And so for me, I would say you have a road in front of you to make sure that like you are being responsible for you, for your vibration.
Yeah.
I would also recommend the works of Hawkins. I really love the book Letting Go. It's like one of my absolute favorites in helping us understand how much energy we invest into the things around us that we don't think we are. And we're wrapped up in Hawkins, David Hawkins, Letting Go. And I think between being able to like see it through these kinds of angles, recognizing that, we need to feel the things that we need to feel, right? We need to feel and allow those feelings to pass through us. But let's teach you heart coherence, and let's get you into a different space where you can allow that heart energy to also heal what you're recognizing and feeling inside of your body. So many times when we tap into our heart will actually heal what we're trying to mentally do the merry-go-round with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's not that I would ever be saying, you don't need to pay attention to those feelings, and you don't know. Those are wonderful and beautiful things, and we're humans and we need to feel the full spectrum of our feelings.
Yeah.
But very often our heart can replace and rebuild.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes all that we need. A lot of times when we are in like these low vibrations, it's really, really difficult to solve a problem with the same energy that created it.
Yeah.
And so what we actually need to do is not focus on that part of the problem right now, but to move to something else that makes us feel good.
Right. Yeah. Because I am trying to deal with like some hurt, just certain things he's done that really just, they're hurtful, but then also trying not to stay there. It's like, how many times do you like let yourself go back there or mentally just be like, you know what, enough's enough. Like, sorry, not letting that thought in. Sorry, I'm not paying attention to you anymore. Like, feel how you want to feel. But like, I don't know. But then I don't feel like it's resolved because when things are brought up, it triggers that feeling in me. And I'm like, I don't know.
We got to replace it.
To deal with this crap. I don't know.
We got to replace it. And I think there's so many things in the road and the journey that like I'm kind of pointing you to that will help you like let go of those things. It will also, like every single time that you can find more compassion for him, which is what you will be able to feel as you check into higher feelings. You'll be able to have more access to that compassion in knowing that that's not who he is. That's not who he would really choose to be. Like in his heart of hearts, like his truest self, he's not, that's not who he is. And I think that you know that.
Yeah.
But the stress and pressure of life has created patterns in him that he didn't know otherwise how to not fall into. And he's in it.
Yeah.
And how much of it is also happening to you? Because if you're carrying anxiety and and you don't know, and you're trying to figure it out. And so all of a sudden we come into a space where, because you're having this self-acceptance for you, you get to have self-acceptance for him too. And by you moving out of it and feeling good feelings, all of a sudden, either the problem disappears or you can see a better way to solve it.
Yeah.
It's completely like the best remedy. And I would never say to walk away from all the things that you need to feel, but we got to feel good. We have to feel good. If we don't feel good, we can't teach our heart. Like we have neural pathways inside of our heart They're inside of our brain. And if we teach them a new pattern, then all of a sudden we're thinking differently and we're releasing different hormones and chemicals inside of our body. And then all of a sudden life is different and better.
Yeah.
You know, and we'll always have things to work through. We'll always have things to let go of. We'll always have, but does it get better? Does it look like sitting on a couch talking and really hearing each other? Yeah.
Right.
It looks different. It looks different. My biggest direction would be keep learning.
Yeah.
Pay attention to your own vibration.
Mm-hmm.
And continually lift it. And I would tell you, I'll tell you, and I'll promise you, no matter what,
Mm-hmm.
if you learn heart coherence, that will be the fastest and most effective way for you to learn vibration and how to elevate that vibration.
Okay.
Okay.
And is that something can I learn that? Like,
yeah, for sure.
On YouTube? I mean, is that something I can learn without taking a course? I mean, I know you're certified or something in it, right?
Yeah. I'm going to tell you, I think that because I packaged, like I actually learned heart coherence through Joe Dispenza, but I didn't know what it was. Like he talks about it, but I was not able to like figure it out the way that
That's how I feel a lot about
clearly
what he talks about.
Yeah.
It makes sense, but I don't quite know exactly.
Yeah. And I spent lots of time doing his programs and reading his books and all this stuff. And then I felt this feeling. And then I was actually kind of a tiny bit confused because it felt the most like feeling the Holy Spirit to me. And I was kind of like, wait a second, God, like talk me through this. Like, because that kind of scared me a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I talk about that also in the course. I talk about that, like, I realized and I learned that that's the center for our spirit. And that what I'm feeling is that's my spirit. And to make sure that I know the difference between that feeling and when I feel the Holy Spirit, that was really, really important key for me. And so now I know the complete difference. I know what that feels like. I know what that is. And so now, and when you get like regular at the heart coherence, then you can drop in very easy, very quickly.
Okay.
So at this point in the conversation, Rebecca's kids got in the car and we were still able to talk about a few more things, but there was a lot of noise. So I'm just going to regurgitate for you a few things. She had a really deep desire to have her body catch up with her beliefs. In other words, she believes it can be different, but she actually wants to feel something different also. We also talked about how important heart coherence would be for the environment in the home for her kids and how much she knows it will benefit them. Heart coherence is a way of resetting our internal environment, but we don't always think about how our kids are also experiencing life and what they might be taking on emotionally based on the environment that they are in and that they are coping with, right? That they're learning how to navigate through. And sometimes it's harder on them than we realize. And so being able to teach them how, it's not really like, okay, nothing can go wrong in a household, right? Because that's the reality of life. But what's more important, and especially if we have a lot of that and a lot of energy happening in our homes, just of things we are just trying to manage, because so many of us are up against something, high stakes life, right? And if we can ultimately teach our kids how to navigate through their own insides and how to allow their heart assist them in processing and creating this internal environment, then the gift you're giving them for their future is so huge. It's so big. And ultimately, we're teaching them how to navigate through the situation, the right now, and then also, giving them tools for the rest of their life, which are super helpful. Heart coherence has really been proven to improve the harmony in the home because when we're in heart coherence, even just one of us, it ripples out from us and affects everybody around us. It helps their nervous system to calm down. It helps everybody to be able to think more clearly. It helps, reset those chemicals and the autonomic nervous system in our body. It helps reset all of those hormones and the things that we are experiencing internally so that we can go from uptight and worried and stressed and a lot going on and oh my word, we bring it back down. We can bring it back to a space where we can think clearly. And inside of that, we get to learn to feel different, right? Have you noticed that I talk now about accessing joy, accessing a different feeling? Because heart coherence can bring you into feeling good, feeling peace, feeling joy, feeling love, feeling those higher level emotions that we don't have access to when the only thing that we teach ourselves to feel is low. And there's good reason for those low feelings. But it's really so simple to teach ourselves how to access higher feelings and how to recreate those patterns. And when we recreate those patterns, we're also allowing our heart to heal the things that have kept us feeling so low. So it's interesting in the episode, you might remember a time when I was telling her the way that her husband is acting is not about her, it's about him. But when we are living so close with another person, it's important to know that the vibration we keep also affects the people around us. And we did move into that in the conversation. But I just wanted to point out to you that even though it's not about her, it really is still all about her. Because if she can learn how to hold a different vibration, she lifts everybody in the home. Right? So her husband can still make choices that are AKA independent of her, but her vibration for sure affects the choices also that he makes. And we're really so intertwined. And ultimately we have these jangled up, balls of string that we are trying to connect with each other inside of, right? And we see one person acting like this and we think it's affecting us. But when we get out in front of it and we take charge and we unravel the string and we change the vibration and the feelings, that is what also affects the other person. So I just wanted to point that out to you so that you can see how completely intertwined it really is. Have you ever seen the statue? It's so beautiful and it's really huge. There's sort of an outline with like really thick wire or cable of a man and a woman sitting back to back. And it's hollow, like you can see through them. But inside of them, there are these two little people who are trying to reach out for each other's hands. To me, that statue is so thought-provoking, right? Because the big people inhabit all of those twisted up balls of string that we have, all of this stuff that we're carrying around. And the little people, to me, represent who we are without all of that, who we once were when we were young, without the things that we carry that we don't exactly know how to let go of. It is who we truly are. And they are the ones that are trying to connect, even though this man and woman are back to back. I believe that statue is a great epitome that the more that we can shed that outer layer, that bigger person, right, and come into who we really are, we also allow the other person in our life to do that too. And so ultimately from this episode, I hope that you are really understanding how much heart coherence can help you gain harmony in your home, how much it can teach you, how much it can instruct your body to feel something different so that you can step into a different vibration. I hope that you see that with heart coherence, you have more power than you think you do. I hope this episode is one where we can honor Rebecca, first of all, for being so willing and so vulnerable in allowing our audience to share in the things that she is up against. And I hope that you hold and respect that space that she has truly given us. Rebecca, it was an absolute pleasure to talk to you, and I'm so excited for your journey forward. Isn't it interesting that when we don't feel like we have answers, we feel hopeless, and when we feel like we have options and something to look forward to, we can actually feel excited? And how a mindset check really just helps us to check into something different. So I hope that you are really taking something from this episode that is benefiting your life. And also, if you know someone else that can benefit from this episode, I would personally love it if you share it with them. Also, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. And be watching Instagram for this Heart Sync sale. It will be 25% off for a short period of time. You're not going to want to miss it. I want to leave you with a quote today from Eckhart Tolle that says, "If you get the inside right, the outside will fall into place." Until next time, my friend.